Well, I mean, you look at the schedule, and you know every year you're going to play them because they're a rival and in-state rival. They're a coastal opponent. There's guys on that team that they know, they're former teammates, and so there's a lot of things. I mean, human nature is that you always know that the last game traditionally here has been the game against Virginia Tech. So you know that on the front end of it. And I'm quite sure every year, every game, guys are looking at the scores and how teammates are doing and things like that. So it's not something that you constantly talk about because it's a given, basically. And now that the week is here, now the focus is on this opponent, who they are, what we have to do, not what's going on with them. It's just about the things that we need to do in order for us to be competitive and win a football game more than anything else. So the hype is already has been made up, all over. Guys know it, and now you got to play the game. I mean, that's this big rivalry weekend for a lot of other schools as well. But the one thing that Kyle brings to us is a physical presence on the perimeter and blocking, and there were 243 yards rushing. A lot of it had to do with getting to the second level. And when you have big guys like not only Kyle but Miles Gooch, Keon Johnson, that have the ability to to block DBs and crack block on linebackers, then you give your runners a chance. And Kyle has done a really nice job of doing that and showing that he can he can be a receiver that can catch the ball, but also one of the biggest assets that he has is the ability to block. Well, I'm quite sure the accomplishment of having a 1,000-yard rusher is always something that running backs dream of. If you ask Kevin, he'd probably trade all that in for wins rather than an accomplishment like that. It's important that that we do the best we can in order to give him the opportunity to run the ball and utilize his talent. You're right. The defense we're about to play is in the top 10 of a lot of categories, and they've played well. And so every running back, every team that has played against them, they've done a nice job of. And we'll have to do a nice job, a great job of creating those holes and those opportunities, for Kevin if he's going to look to achieve something like that. But the biggest thing, more so out of rushing yards and getting 1,000, is probably, if you ask everyone, is about the opportunity to win a game. Without a doubt, particularly low in the Hopkins family because of recruiting and things like that. But they've really done a nice job in controlling the inside running lanes. They've done a nice job in pressing the pocket. So when a guy like Gale gets up the field and the quarterback has to step up, then they've done a nice job being in that presence. Because you look at statistically, there's hurries, pressures, QB hits that they've really done a nice job in accomplishing there. So they're two really good players, and you look and you see why, again, defensively they're having the success in terms of the numbers, top 10 in a lot of the categories. Has a lot to do with inside guys. Just like Brent Urban for us, the difference between him being back and Miami 90 yards rushing and him 2 tackles for losses. I mean, you just can't underestimate the influence that those inside guys can have for you. Well, obviously, Logan is a talented young man. He is very physical for a quarterback. He's very physical. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. He can throw the ball with velocity, and we've seen him make a lot of good throws. And so his maturation process is no different than any other quarterback that starts out, whether it's a new coordinator or not. That the years and the experience are the things that start to add up, in order to take its effect on quarterbacks. And he came back this year, adjusting to a new coordinator and whatever the issues that are going on offensively for them. He is the focal point of it, as all quarterbacks are. And but you see his development over the years that I've known him and I've seen him mature as as I'm quite sure one of their team leaders is what we hope David to be, or any quarterback, Grayson Lambert. Those guys eventually mature, and the experience that they gain through the season, the weight room program, just all those different things, starts to take hold, and you see the end result on the field. It's a very small class, a small class of young men that, one, all of them will graduate, which I'm very proud of, and two, that they've had the opportunity to experience, some success here, as we talk about the Chick-fil-A Bowl, whatever, and then now having to deal with the adversity, going out as their last college football game. They're great young men. You wish that, as far as on the field, you'd had more success for them, but they'll be successful men, in life, in the business opportunities that they will pursue because of who they are. So, again, the best thing for us to do as a team is to play a game that's representative of how we want to send them out, and that's being very competitive, playing your rival team, having a chance to win and in the streaks and things like that everyone talks about. The main focus is to win a football game for those. There's very few seniors. A lot of times, the biggest development that players make is over that summer period time, right after spring, because they have all the strength coaches involved with them and all those things, but you never know what a young man is doing with the discretionary time that he has on his own. And when they come back in camp, you look at whether they're bigger, faster, stronger, in better shape, the endurance. And I think Brett made the conscious decision of going into this final season for himself. He stayed up here. He worked out. He ran. He lifted. And he did all those things that you want great players or good players to do. He got better, and he continues to get better even as as we're going into this last game here. So it's a tribute to his work ethic. I mean, you talk to him, he's a nice, almost goofy kind of guy when you talk to him. But again, on the football field, he's really demonstrated a skill and a knack for being a dominant defensive lineman. The same question was asked about Urban, about that improvement, and I would say Anthony Harris is in that category as well, as far as a guy that had played in college football games, had the benefit of being around a strength coach, had some experience, and Anthony's he's a smart football player. His football IQ is very high, and a lot of times, although defensively our linebackers are getting us lined up and making calls, Anthony is very, very active in what he says to linebackers and other defenders. And so, as I said, his football smarts are something that he understands. He sees the whole field. And as a safety, being able to be a good safety, you have to be able to see the whole field, not just be tunnel vision on some things. So he can tackle, he can play, he can defend the ball in the air, and he can get people lined up. It's very important. You attack the competitive side of the guys. They look, this is the reality of what's in front of us. The games, the lack of performance, the lack of points or giving up too many points. And you talk about those things of what a win can do, for you. And you always like to go out on a positive note, but it requires that kind of effort and that kind of energy to get that done. So it's been a big emphasis about it. And again, we talked about this past game. Statistically, you put up some good numbers, but then you do some things that just take you right out of the ball game. And so putting a game together or 4 quarters and being consistent with what we do is the focus point. And when you do that, then you give yourself a great chance to win games. And when you don't, then you're going to experience the experiences we've had thus far. So the emphasis on us is about us and doing the things, protecting the ball, and and making opportunities happen for ourselves. So when you do that, you have a chance to win, and that's the focus. Is always going to be the focus.